Today in PB and Cashew, we are here live on video, which is totally awesome. And today we're going to be talking about
Inner wounds. What's up, PB Cashewville? It's your boy Cashew.
and it's your boy PB, and you can see us.
Yeah, it's crazy. We actually decided to go on YouTube. That's like, to me, really crazy. What do you think?
I have no words. I have no words to explain how cool this is. I mean, normally we thought that it's just going to be us on a podcast every single week, which is kind of cool. But now it's like we have our own YouTube.
I mean, we're still in a podcast, but we're doing YouTube and audio. We're still doing the audio version too, right?
Oh, it's just so awesome.
You can see PB is really happy about this. But PB, let me ask you this question. How has your week been?
My week was okay.
Okay. Why only okay?
My week had a lot of challenges, first
Okay.
of all. But we did have Monday off, so which was really good. And so I spent it watching Avatar.
Which Avatar? Like the movie or the show?
No, the show, because the show is awesome.
Okay,
The
okay.
show is awesome.
That's
awesome.
cool.
It's on Netflix. Shameless plug, I guess, for Netflix. And it's a clean show. That's something I really love about Avatar is the fact that it's a clean show. It's a show in which, like I can watch it with my kids if I had kids.
Oh, I see. You don't think you have kids? I mean, you don't have kids.
Well,
Yeah, actually, no. You can say you have kids.
I should hope not that I don't have any kids that I don't know about, man.
Your
Goodness
bus
gracious.
kids?
I don't bust. No, I meant like my own
Oh, your
children. My
own
own
children. Okay,
That's what
okay.
I
I see
mean.
what you mean.
Like, oh, you know what? I would like to give a shout out to my cousins in South Carolina again, and and what and
Wow, you lost your train of thought
I'm
there.
losing my train of thought. You know what it is? It's just I just cannot believe that we have video. It's so
Man,
cool.
you're so excited about this, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, Connor, this is for you. I'm trying to find a New York Rangers hat for you, but they didn't have it at Lids because they don't think hockey's a sport. But expect this in the mail soon, but not this one, but in a hat your size.
I mean, I think lids don't. The lids think hockey is a sport.
Which is kind of sad. I don't know
No,
why.
they do think it's a sport.
I know it is a sport, but they don't have any hockey gear, so I have to go to the NHL
Really?
shop. God,
Really?
when we last time I went there, last week, I said, "Oh, let me go to Lids and see if I can get a hat for Connor," and they didn't have any. They didn't have any Rangers hats.
That's
They had
shocking.
Yankee hats, they had Giants hats and football hats, but they had no Rangers hats. So
Oh.
I'm gonna order it from like NHL.com and then uh, take it from there, I guess.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Now, what is our topic?
Our topic is about. I keep messing it up. I keep saying inner demons, but it's not inner demons.
It's inner wounds.
Inner wounds.
So the topic is it's crazy. So basically,
Inner
what
wounds.
happened was I was the one that like said to PB.
hmm
I said to PB, "Hey, let's talk about inner wounds." And the reason why I say that is because me and a friend was talking about inner wounds, and we had a little deep conversation. And I thought this would be a good conversation to talk about inner wounds.
I think it's something so applicable today because there's a lot of issues that everybody just likes to internalize, just keeps inside.
Yes.
Say, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it in here and not really talk about it. But I think that the first thing in terms of inner wounds, why it's so good to just talk about it, is because once you get it out there, it's not an inner wound anymore. You brought it out into the open, and it's something that you kind of can deal with. So why inner wounds? I mean, I found it absolutely fascinating, and I said, we should do something like that. I think it'll be a great help to everybody that listens. So how about you, Cash? Just to now remember, this is public. So do you have any inner wounds that you want to share with everybody?
I mean, I think everyone has inner wounds.
Mhm.
I think everybody at a point in time, if they say they don't, is lying. I think that inner wounds are caused by hurt. There's just a lot of hurt that if I feel hurt, yes, Will I go into detail about it? I will, maybe later on
Hmm.
in the episode, but the reason why I thought about inner wounds was because the last episode we did, and by the way, this is our first YouTube video, but we have audio video of other shows that we have, other episodes we did.
Hmm.
We were discussing about, was it I believe it was the NBA, right?
Hmm.
Rants, was that one? And then we were deciding what to talk about, and PB wanted to talk about more like to the Bible, like biblical stuff.
Hmm.
And I thought about it. What can we use? And then when I was talking, it's just like, oh, inner wounds,
Right.
things that we deal with in our life, and we could apply it for biblical characters if you think about it.
That's true. I mean, a lot. If there's in terms of dealing with the internal, like the inner man, that's a very common, very major biblical topic to definitely talk about.
Yes.
Uh, but even just inner wounds, just in
Yeah,
general,
just in general.
how it's something that's very relatable. So I think we've talked about too much about inner wounds now, but let's actually get into the meat of it. What would you say is the best strategy for dealing with the inner wounds that we face?
Inner wounds do take a while to heal. And also it depends on which type of wounds it is.
Hmm.
For example, a breakup,
Okay.
that's a tough one. Family, a loss, like family hurting you,
Hmm.
that's another
Hmm.
tough one. There's a lot of inner wounds that it's tough to deal with.
Right.
And in reality, we really can't deal with them. If you want me to be honest with you, we try to deal with them,
Uh huh.
but we can't. And one thing I'm going to say is this: one thing I'm going to say is that we didn't tell you to, we do believe in God.
Hmm.
We are Christians, and we're not perfect. And we are here to just talk about it. If you disagree with us, then that's fine. We're not going to
Yeah.
say anything. We're just here trying
Hopefully
to
it's just
encourage
hopefully it's just a different
a
perspective
different
that
perspective.
you may not necessarily be familiar with. But I kind of would have to disagree with you a little bit though with Matt because you said that we can't deal with the inner wounds. I think it's something that we definitely can, and I think the pain that's really caused with most people is because they choose not to deal with their inner wounds.
I'm more of a person that most of the time when you have an inner wound, you go to something else. You go
That's
to
true.
the pills. You go to the
Right.
drinking.
Right.
You go to the drugs. That's how you deal with your inner wounds. Sometimes you deal with your inner wounds by just lashing out to people.
Hmm.
So there's ways you can handle inner wounds, but they're not the right way.
Exactly.
For us, how we handle our inner wounds is we go to God. We pray and we go to God. And like I said, inner wounds are not easy to deal with.
No,
We
absolutely.
all struggle with it. Even if you're a Christian, you're gonna have trouble with your inner wounds. And there are times where I'll be honest, where I can say, "Oh, I got this myself. I don't need God."
Hmm.
And that's how we are. But I do have this theory. I had this thought. Inner wounds, they can make you or break you.
Hmm.
They can make you stronger, or they can make you a weaker person.
I agree. I mean, in terms, and it's not only in terms of just having the wounds themselves, it's how you deal with those particular wounds. Because some people, just as you said, and when I handled addictions, and also with the addictions that, again, folks, I'll be real transparent, like the addictions that I've had to deal with, it's, you're the inner wound, like the drugs, the alcohol, the pornography, the things that you go to because of the inner wound, it's not really dealing with what the core issue is. It's like dealing with the drugs and the smoking, pornography. Those are all like the fringe things, but it's not real. The inner wound's usually the root. But as Matt eloquently put, yeah, going to God to in terms of it is really the best way. First off, really just going into the Bible and really seeing how you can uh, learn how to counter that things because now the Bible says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but spiritual. These are things where you have to really fight inner things. Like that's the pride, that's the lust, that's the anger that are caused by whatever. Like you can fill it in. Like there's trauma that happened, just as you said before, like situations with family, situations with a hurt that people some said have done. But the thing that's also crazy is because people haven't learned how to deal with that particular problem, is really what's causing them not only to just have inner wounds, but making the inner wound even worse.
Yes, and like I said, there's a lot of you go to the Bible to see that there's a lot of Bible characters that have inner wounds.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Joseph. I think Joseph had a big inner wound when both his brothers basically sell him.
Well, with Joseph though, I don't think he actually had like it's probably implied because Joseph's human that oh goodness, why did my brothers just abandon me like that?
But wouldn't you have an inner wound if that happened to you? Wouldn't that kind of hurt you?
But here's the thing
And
with
I know that it hurt him, but he didn't use that as an excuse though.
that's yeah,
He didn't use it as an
that's
excuse
what I
to
mean.
not do
Why
anything. He
with him?
actually did a lot for the
Yeah,
Lord.
because I think that's the reason why I don't think he had himself had some inner wounds because he didn't let something like that really affect the rest of his life, which
Okay,
is I think what most people what let's be trained like that what we have kind of done. There's so many times where I've held a grudge against somebody and for the longest time it was eating me up inside, and I'm sure that you've had situations too where
yeah.
somebody's like hurt you, did something wrong to you, and because you didn't let it go or you still thought that hey, you know what, this is something that I got to deal with it and I'm not going to get God involved in it, and because of that that's what's caused your inner wound to really get worse. It's like a cancer.
Like Jonah. When you
Mm.
say Jonah,
That's actually yeah. I would
Absalom, David's son
hmm
Absalom, got him killed because
because he was just hurt
hurt.
by the fact that he's he can't be king or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
And would you say I think David has some inner wounds too, even though it was hard for him to he dealt with it. He still had inner wounds. Wouldn't you
Mm,
say? I mean,
if we were to think about
oh man,
I just Jamaican there for a second. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend. But I think when you think about Israel is Israel Hebrew kings, Israeli Hebrew kings. I think probably one of the major inner wound kings is King Saul.
yeah,
King Saul. I mean, think about that. He's a guy that yes was a good solid king for a while, but because he has that inner wounds in himself where he's just either trying to impress somebody or it's all about him, that caused him to be more wicked and just stray down the path, just have this big beef with David for the rest of his life. Like almost killing him, almost rising up, I think, against his own son or something like that. But again, this is just evidence of just how an inner wound can really affect not just you, but how it affects, in his case, an entire country.
Pharaoh. I thought about that.
Oh,
Pharaoh.
there we go. Inner wounds.
Pharaoh had an inner wound, and then what happened was, he hardened his heart. The Lord took his son away, the first son, the firstborn, and he had an inner wound, and he was upset about that.
Actually,
Which I
to,
would be honest with you, that would hurt.
to go back to what you're saying though about Pharaoh, the hardness of his heart, that
Wound.
is the inner wound. The death of his son is a consequence of that.
Yes.
But think about it then, like how heavy that is, and how prideful and how hard-hearted you are that you're willing to let an entire country suffer just because you do not want to do what's right.
Yeah.
That's the bigger inner wound. The fact that you are so consumed with pride that you are willing to let this country suffer boils, bloody water, frogs, hailstones, just because you do not want to set a people free. And no, and that's how deep the wounds can be, how deep a pride can be that you don't care. I want to be right. So I don't care what God does. I don't care what God sends. But sadly, when you're finally ready to make the right decision, there's so much already destruction.
Yeah.
Think about it. There's so many crops that are dead. There's livestock that's dead, water resources that are dead, firstborn children that are dead, and to top it all off, because of your inner wound, because of your pride against and your hatred against God, your son had to die because of it.
Yeah.
And it showed that obviously he didn't fully deal with it, because what does Pharaoh do even after his son dies? He goes and
Well,
he pursues the Egyptians anyway. I mean the Israelites anyway.
yeah.
And he ends up, I think, well, most people even believe, like, he ends up losing his life because of it.
Yeah. Who else would you say a Bible character that has a lot of inner wounds? I'm trying to think of more, on the top of my head.
I think we're missing somebody
Would you
that's
say Nebuchadnezzar was one of them, or
Nebuchadnezzar. Probably not, because later on
he does
he does
change?
deal with his inner wounds
Yes.
later on. A lot of folks believe that Nebuchadnezzar is actually saved, because he does turn, and then God deals with him directly. But I think that there's one that really has a big inner wound that we probably haven't really discussed that much.
Satan?
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay, I was wondering
bingo,
Satan.
ding ding ding.
I was like, was it Satan?
Is it Satan?
I'm like, is it
Satan?
Satan? So yeah, that is true. If you think about it,
What would you class? What would you consider that Satan's inner wound really is?
pride.
Specifically, what? What does he want?
He wants to be a god.
Not be a
He,
god.
he wants to be God.
He wants to
So
be
he was
God.
like, that's his pride, basically, though.
And so again,
His ego.
that goes back to the same thing. It's like, because of your self-centeredness, you had to take down a third of the angels with you. And not only that, you are integral in bringing sin into the world.
Yeah.
So it's like, I hate God so much, or I'm not getting what God wants or what I want. And so because of that, I'm going to rebel against God and his most favored creation. I'm going to help destroy.
Yeah, that's true.
How heavy that is. So you've had, and again, feel free to share this. You've had a lot of moments where you've been wounded heavily, whether it be breakups or whether it be certain conflicts that happen in your life, just as I have. For you, what has been like the best way for you to deal with your inner wounds?
I think the best way for me to deal with my inner wounds, is me going to church
Right.
and me reading the Bible, me learning about God. For me, that's personally, me praying. Personally, that's what helps me with my inner wounds. And like I said, I still have inner wounds. It's not easy to get away from.
Yeah, it's sometimes, but I think there has to become a point where really you need to kind of face these things head on. But my problem has been that I've tried to face these problems head on through my own strength.
Yes.
Like, for example, there was one person that, I'm not gonna mention their name, but did kind of get me into trouble, so to speak. And for so many years, I blamed that person. It's like, if that person did this instead, it would have been a completely different story. If it was just, if I was given this piece of advice instead of this person telling me do it this way, I wouldn't have gotten into this and this and this and this. And so for a long time, you're just like harboring all of this, like, that person did me wrong. But then there was one night I was like, what's that really doing to me? It's not, you're not resolving anything between you and that person. And most importantly, the person that's really causing you the most grief is you, because you're the person who you made the choices to do what advice was given. You have to take ownership also of what you can do to get yourself. I almost said, like, you have to take ownership for the fault of the inner wound. It's like some of these things aren't your fault.
Yeah.
And that's what causes the inner wound. But I think we have to take responsibility in trying to figure out how to move on, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it is easy, because I know that there's folks out there that are watching and listening that have had some heavy wound that's really gotten them, and it's hard to move on. I mean, one great example really is just like our veterans.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
PTSD. I mean, in talking with some of them, it's something that they can't shake. I remember watching, I think it was Band of Brothers, and they were doing the interviews with one of the actual airborne, and they hate cold days,
Yeah.
because it just reminds them of the horrors that they've seen in, like, places like Bastogne. and other places in France during like winter time. There's some Russians that when the during the winter wars in during World War II, where they hate the winter because it's just the horrors that they've seen. I'm sure Holocaust survivors. There's some things
Yeah.
that they can't erase, and it's still hard. And because we can't just say, "Oh, you just got to get over it." It's like, hold on a second. You can't just say that to that person.
It's not easy.
It's not easy because you don't know fully
What's
exactly
going on in their
what's going
life
on
or what
or what
happened?
happened exactly.
You know how that phrase goes. It's like you put your it's like
You put
put
yourself
yourself
in that
person's
person's shoes.
shoes.
Oh
Yeah, there
yeah,
we go. You put
walk a
yourself
mile in
in
that
that
person's
person's shoes.
shoes.
There we go. Sorry that we couldn't remember it. It was like it just came blank. But like so you never know what people are dealing with their inner wounds.
I agree. Yeah.
I think that like I said, this is more for encouraging, trying to encourage and tell people, there is ways to deal with the inner wounds.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not as easy.
It's not easy, of
You
course.
probably have inner wounds. I
Oh
have inner
yeah.
wounds.
But just going back to how you dealt with it, and this is something for both of us. The best way that I was able to really deal with inner wounds is to first off talk to someone about it,
Yeah.
and more importantly, talk to God about it.
Yeah.
Because again, this is something that's really the wounds that we have are so deep,
It really
and
is. Yeah.
and it's something that transcends any kind of physical solution, and that includes, I think, um, drugs, like prescription drugs. And sometimes that's how some people have dealt with it, and if it's working for you, all power to you. Everybody's got their way of dealing with it, but from what I've experienced, and I'm sure from what you've experienced, really bringing it to God, having spiritual solutions to something like that, because is much better. Being more in your Bible, because you fill yourself with the wisdom that you need in order to be able to counter the pain of it. Again, and also it says casting your cares upon Him. That's what that's what the Bible says to do. And also the whole concept and the whole uh, doctrine of salvation is really that concept of dealing with the inner wounds, because Christ bore it all for us already. And since He was able to conquer it, we also have the strength to do so. But I know that that's not easy.
No, it's
It's
not.
not easy.
You
But
know.
again, but would you agree though that a lot of the reason why it's not easy is because we're still trying to hold on to the control for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are times where you have those inner wounds that you can't control, and that's the ones that
Oh yeah.
you get scared of. The ones that you don't have control over. Because let's
Yeah.
be honest, someone did it themselves. Someone ruined your life because of it.
Hmm.
And that's stuff that is tough. The only way I could say is to fight it is by going to God. It's
Right.
like or
Talking to
I know
people.
some people don't like talking about their inner wounds, which I think it's another crazy, not crazy, but like scary thing to do is sometimes keep those wounds into yourself, because if
Hmm.
you keep it yourself, it's just tell someone that you trust. So someone that that won't say anything but will try to help you out.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we can't do it on our own.
No, we can't.
We need someone in our, we really do need someone in our life. Like, not like I'm talking about like a friend. We need a friend to be there for us and to help us out. As
Hmm.
we could say, yeah, we could do it by ourselves, but we can't.
Right.
And that's the truth.
And I agree definitely, Matt. The one thing though is that and I give kudos to every single friend that I've had. I give a shout out to my best friend John. I give a shout out to you. I give a shout out to Jose, all of my brothers in Christ that have helped me in the years at RU, Pastor, and again, I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton of people. My parents, of course, but one thing that I've always learned, especially in trying to deal with my inner demons and my inner wounds, really is going back to God. And I think as the older that we get, I think that the further away that we stray from that. I'll tell you an interesting story that from many years ago. I was about, I was saved already, but then I hit my dad with a koosh ball. I pegged him right in the eye, and then it got my dad super mad because I laughed at him because he was hurt. And so my dad just left. And, I felt so much guilt for that. And then, so I'm calling my mom. My mom was working in the Bronx. I was in Canada at the time. And so I called my mom while she was at work. So she calls up, and it's like the nurse's station, and she's like, hello. And then it's just like she's saying like two things that it's like a regular call for work, but it's not. And it's like, and I'm like, Mom, Mom, I don't know where Dad went. And then she's like, well, Frederick, I'm sure he will be back, but I know it's hurting right now, so why don't you pray to God about it? So, in our small apartment in Canada, I'm a couple of months saved already. I kneel, I kneel there, and I just pray, and then I read the Psalms. Uh, I know that I read the facts that He will never leave me nor forsake me. And Dad came back, but I also had that comfort that came from prayer and came from the Bible. And I think a lot of people say, "Oh, it doesn't work." But have you really tried it? Have you really given it a chance? Have you really taken the moment? Because a lot of times people just try it just to try it, but not to actually really say, you know what, let me give this a serious
Yeah.
look, a serious try. And you know what, with me, um, 10, yeah, 12 years ago, when we came back to church and came back to the Bible, had a church that loved us, and because we've been away from that for so long that when you're trying to deal with your inner wounds, you're hitting the bottle, you're looking at stuff that you're not supposed to be looking at, and you're not really getting the full potential of the life that you're supposed to be leading because that inner wound, it's instead of it healing, you're just causing it to rip
Yeah.
further and
Yeah.
further, and you're putting salt into it, so it's not doing anything. uh, but the only way to do that really is to find the solutions internally, spiritually.
Yeah. That's true. That story always you tell me that story. I'm just like, man, you're messed up. You just hit your dad in the face and you
I
just
know,
laugh
it's
about it.
to this day.
How were you again? You're like
I was probably about 11 years old or
at
so.
11 years old, hitting
Yeah.
your dad, and you're just laughing about it. Your
It
dad's like
was,
all mad. You're just like,
yeah, it was. That's how wicked we are. But then, because the thing is, like, oh, I wanted to get one up on my dad, like got the best of my dad. But then, the guilt sets
yeah,
in, and that's the awesome thing. Like when I got saved, my dad told me, uh, I got in a fight the next day after I got saved.
wow,
But then for some reason I said, you know what, Dad, what's so crazy is that I feel really, really guilty. And he said, well, that's because the Holy Spirit's within you. And so when I did that, and then I saw Dad like get so angry and leave, and just to cool off, and I was like, that guilt just really felt heavy. But what's awesome is that same spirit that gives you the guilt is also the answer of removing it. Isn't that awesome?
yeah, that's good. Well, I guess until one inner wound that is healed, that I got over.
Mm-hmm.
This was gonna be an interesting one. So
Mm.
you know this one. It's when 2014 when I stopped going to church.
Ah, yes, yes.
So what happened was it's 2014. I'm about to graduate high school, and I go to church, and I still go. I go to church, but something happened where I'm not gonna say like names or anything. I just got upset about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was favorites. Let's just say that, and I felt like there was favorites. So I stopped going. And 2014 in October, I got myself a job.
Mm-hmm.
After I graduated, I got myself a job. Worked at Chick-fil-A for Brookfield, and I started hanging out with people. Friends, just my coworkers. Good, they're great people. Nothing wrong with them. But then I just started living. I guess you could say going to the world, and I started drinking a little bit. Never got drunk. I never got drunk,
Wow.
but I just drink Mike and I guess you could say Mike Lemonade, right? It's what's it called?
Mike. Mike's
Mike's
hard.
Hard.
Mike's lemonade.
I drank that.
Mike and Ike's is the
Not Mike
candy.
and Ice. Yeah, I don't know why I said Mike and Ice, but I started drinking a little bit,
Hmm.
and went to, I think it was a rave. I think they call it a rave. I think I can't
Okay.
remember. And just living in the world. And there was this one time actually where you know I felt, I know I dealt with this inner wound because I went back to church. Well, this guy, his name's Zach. I want to say his name's Zach, kept telling me, go to church, go to church. Are you
Hmm.
going to church? When he came back from college, and I used to be like, not really. Or I always say, yeah, I'll go, but then I'll be like, I'm too tired, I'm sleepy, I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, it was always a challenge. We'd come visit and then we'd pull up and we wouldn't know whether or not Matt would come on the bus or not.
It's basically every time when I come, they'd be like, it's a miracle, he's here.
Right.
Basically. So I used to tell them sometimes, yeah, but I really didn't go. There were times where I actually said, no, I'm not gonna go. But the guy, he never would stop, like,
The
bugging me. He
persistence,
kept
yeah.
being like, hey, I want you to come to this. I want you to come to that. Hey, I know you're graduated and you're 18 years old, but I want you to go to like a youth conference and youth. He just kept bugging and bugging and bugging. I'm like, what is this guy on? Like,
Right,
why does he
exactly.
keep bugging me? But I finally, well, I forgot. It was in 2015, close to 2016. Like I said, I never got drunk, but I did drink a little bit. I had this random like thought in my head, and you know how you could people say like you felt like the Lord's talking to you.
Hmm.
I honestly believe that guy was talking to me. He's like, "What are you doing with your life? You're just a loser right now.
Hmm.
You're over here partying, having fun. Like you said, never. I'm being serious when I said never got drunk. Just drank a couple, and you're just out here having fun. But you should be at church.
Right.
So I called the guy. I called Zach. He at that time he was the youth pastor, and I talked to him about it. I told him I want to go out. Want to go out to eat and talk to him about it. And I explained to him the situation. And then after that, he just after that I told him the whole story. And he goes, the reason why it's like that is because you you took a hold of grudge on us. You hold a grudge.
Hmm.
And at that
You had an inner wound
an in wound basically. And so
that you just
basically
didn't
I
deal
just
with.
didn't deal
Right.
with it. The only way I dealt with it is just partying and drinking.
Hmm.
And it didn't make it easy. It didn't make it better. And that's
Nope.
me being honest. It doesn't make it better
Caused the wound to.
to grow. Make you more angry, make you more mad, but not at that person, at yourself.
Right.
I was mad at myself because I knew I shouldn't be doing this,
Right.
but I still did it. And I think that's sometimes how we are. It's like we have an inner wound, and we sometimes know we're not supposed to be doing this, and we get mad at ourselves, but we still do it.
Hmm.
That's because we got too, I guess you could say, addicted to it, or too fond of it.
Too fond of the.
The too fond of what if it's drinking, we got fond of drinking.
Right.
If it's doing drugs, you got fond of that, and that's the only way to cope with your inner wound.
Yeah, we found that the physical things, you were going to a physical thing to deal with something that was spiritual,
Yes.
and you can't fight spiritual battles with physical things. That's what the spiritual warfare verses are, I think, in Corinthians, I think,
Yes.
saying that the weapons of our warfare are like spiritual. You have to use spirit whenever we have like inner wounds, they're spiritual things. They're not.
Yes.
And then using drugs, alcohol, pornography, and all these things of the world will not
Solve the problem.
solve the problem. In fact, it makes it worse.
Worse. And like I said, this episode we want to try to be encouragement. I don't know. I pray that it was encouragement for you guys. Like I said, if you disagree, then that's fine with us. We're not gonna get upset. We're not gonna have an argument or debate about it, right? We're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is we just wanted to give something out there because again, there's a lot of crazy things that are going on right now. If we take a look at how the world is, with the fears that so many things that are happening, I think the thing to always go back to is to really think about what are the things that truly have gotten me through. For us, really, it has been and always will be God.
Yes.
God has always gotten us through it. And there's so many times where I've just said, no, it's not it. I can do this on my own. But then again, it's just causing that wound to get a lot larger.
Yes.
So again, we don't know what kind of struggle you're going through right now. We don't know what kind of struggle that you have been put through. But if you've been trying all of these different things and reaching no solutions, really truly give God that chance that He wants, because He does love you. We say this every week. We're gonna say it again. It's like we don't know you, but we love you, and there is a God that does. I mean, He loved you so much that He sends His Son to die for you. And again, a lot of people think that, oh, you know what? Jesus just died so that people can go to heaven. It's not that. Jesus died so that you can have that relationship with God, that to help you deal with these particular situations. It's not just about having good numbers in church, that we don't push numbers in church for that. It's for us to be able to just introduce you to someone who is going to give you the answers to the questions that you are desperately seeking answers for.
Yes, and I agree with that 100%. Now, before we go, do you have one more final thought?
I think that was my final thought.
All
If
right.
if I if I could give one final thought again, look, seek help. Seek help, and sometimes and not sometimes, the help to best deal with it comes from on high.
Yes, that's true. Well, like we always usually say when we end the show, and that is,
We don't know you, but we love you, and there's a God above that does.
I'm Cashew.
And I'm PB.
Peace
Peace
out,
out,
PB
PB Cashewville.
Cashewville.